Vladimir Putin, let's make a deal. There's a lot of different diverging opinions on Russia and Vladimir Putin. And I know that I have put out a lot of critical commentaries on Vladimir Putin himself. But there seems to be common ground with a common enemy that is emerging throughout the world, and that is radical Islam. Actually, the Russians who are living in Russia today under their traditions for centuries are being affected by this, and as Islam is actually taking a hold of Russia and growing bigger and bigger and becoming a bigger force in the military, it will become a problem to the native Russians who live in Russia. If you really want to dig into what Islam is about, it's a non-tolerant religion at the core of it. Even though there's people that are Muslim that are tolerant, but if you get, it's the most radical people that pretty much control the deal. That's pretty much how it goes. And it's a racket. It's a racket. Actually, my opinion is all religions are racket. I don't give a damn who it is, It could be the Roman Catholic Church, the Orthodox Church, the Baptist, Hindu, Shinto priest. I think they're all a bunch of rackets. I'm more into like common sense and spirituality than formal religion. But, I almost think that Russia should be for the Russians. And I think Vlad agrees with that. I think that's his basic philosophy. But the problem with Vlad is, if you're listening, is that he's got too many yes men around him that tell him a bunch of crap that they think he wants to hear. So he never gets a balanced, rational opinion on anything. He just formulates something in his head, and he goes with the freaking flow, and he goes and invades Ukraine and Crimea, and it didn't, that wasn't a smart move, actually. That wasn't worth it, to tell you the truth. That was not worth it. That was not worth it, even if you agreed, if you thought it was the right thing on principle. That wasn't worth it. Definitely not. But it seems like the West and the East is on a collision course. But we got a common enemy. A common enemy is radical Islam. Radical Islam. So, I know Russia's getting punished with, when Vlad is getting punished a lot financially with the low oil prices. I know the low oil prices are probably preceding what's going to happen in the U.S. markets, because that happened in 2008 when they dropped down to, I think, $35 a barrel. And it was the Dow and the S&P bottomed out in early 2009. The metals had bottomed out in late 2008. And, it's probably going to be a pattern just like what happened last time. The ruble fell, too, at the same time. At the same time, oil was falling because, that's where Russia gets most of their money. But I know one thing Vlad wants to do is make a lot of money on oil. That's also what the freaking shale oil industry wants to do in the United States. That's also what, pretty much everybody wants to do that's involved in oil. Now, I would personally think it would be great if they let everybody start growing this hemp stuff, and we could start getting off this oil. And, these big oil elitists, they can just, find something else to do. I don't know what the hell it is. But one thing I understand with Vlad here is that he's got a problem with Islam. He's got a problem. I know he puts on the thing with the religious card. He's not exactly a Christian, but who gives a damn, really? I really don't care. I really don't care what the hell he is. But I know there's common ground here because there's a common enemy, and Vlad's looking at him right now. After 1,600 years of marrying their first cousins, there's a lot of problems where, I don't know what the deal is with Islam, but they're not tolerant of anybody, period. It's like the West is tolerant of everybody else, but Islam is not tolerant of anybody when you're taking the leaders on the top, and the leaders on the top are the ones that are going to be controlling the show. So it's like Vlad in the West got a common enemy. And you know what I propose to do? This guy, I know he's an image guy and all this kind of stuff, but, the thing is, the way I look at it is, we got to preserve our women. Now, this is a Russian blonde chick here. Against this kind of conversion to Islam. It's ridiculous. You know, nobody's got to be forced into any kind of religion, and that's what's going on. What I say is, you know, the best deal would be to do, and this would really freaking, you know, you got Saudi, you know, which is like 100% radical. Iran, which is about 99.9% radical, and Iraq, which is about 98% radical. You know, if there's a war between these countries, the Sunnis and the Shiites, all the oil supply is coming off the market, and guess what? Well, Vlad up there in Russia is going to be making loads of money. And the shale oil industry in the United States is going to be making lots of money. And the middle class is going to be hurting all over the place, I know that. But, you know, there's ways around this stuff because, you know, if you really got smart, if you went to diesel cars and stuff and you ran them off to vegetable oil, and you know, you can get around anything. You can. It's just that you really got to roll up your sleeves and kind of learn how to be a little bit of a backwoods redneck mechanic. And you there could be all kinds of people selling vegetable oil without doing all kinds of oil refineries, and you could run any kind of vehicle that's an old-fashioned type simple diesel off of vegetable oil, and you can eliminate the need for oil. And that would happen. That would happen eventually if the price went up too high. But what I see as a real common enemy is radical Islam. And, you know, right now you got this collision course going on with Russia, with, you know, the U.S., and it's not good. It's not good. Who the hell's going to benefit by this? Not us. Not us. So, you know, really what it should be, you know, I don't know why they didn't do this in the first place. I don't know why. I don't know why. I mean, it would save Western industry because, you know, here we got the Russian chicks skiing down the freaking, you know, Siberian slopes and stuff like that. You know, they would never, you know, if this is definitely not Islam, you know, they'd be wearing burqas, you know. Russian women, they could wear bikinis out there in the snow. They could do what the hell they want. But, you know, when we have we're heading on this collision course, who's it going to benefit? Nobody. It's stupid. You know? I know Vlad made a mistake messing around in Ukraine. And I know there's a bunch of garbage going on in Ukraine from the West, from Russia. Ukraine is getting screwed over from every which way there is. You know, my opinion on Ukraine is they ought to just be independent, leave them the hell alone, and let them do their thing and whatever the hell it is. You know, that's my opinion on that deal. But, you know, I can tell you, what we're heading to is a collision course, and we don't need this garbage. We don't need this garbage. Now, maybe the powers that be want this to happen. I don't know. You know, that's another freaking thing. I don't know. But what I'm looking at here is we got a common enemy. Not her. Common enemy is the guy that Vlad's looking at right now. You know, it's going on where, you know, Russia's being taken over by Islam. You know, in the United States, it's not happening, but it's happening in France, and you can see what's going on. You can see what's going on in the UK. It's a pretty it's not exactly like a religion. It's more like a political movement, and you know that's why I'm not really anti-Russian. I just think Vlad's got too much power. The problem is with people that have too much power, they only get people around them that tell them stuff that they think the guy in power wants to hear. You know? But, you know, I always get in trouble because I'm never one of those people. I always tell them what the hell what I think is what it should be. You know, what it's got to be because, you know, what's right is right, and that's the hell with it. But, you know, what I see is going on is Russia and the United States does have a common enemy. And, you know, you could say Israel has, well, you know what? A lot of people don't understand when you got a lot of people who freaking, they won't understand it in the United States because they're not threatened by it. But if they were in Israel, they'd realize what the problems really are. I'm not Jewish or nothing, but I realize what's going on over there. There's the religion of Islam is a damn political movement, big time, man. It's ridiculous. I don't even know how the heck this thing got started from day one because, you know, I looked at some of the teachings of You know, what they tell you, marrying your first cousin, all this type of stuff. That's not really good for the gene pool. And then, maybe that has to do with a lot with the freaking psyche of sometimes that comes down from generations where you just have this myopic viewpoint of no tolerance for anybody else because you've been marrying your first cousins for the last 1,600 years. That's not one of the rules of Christianity and Judaism, that's for sure. You know what I mean? So I think Russia and the U.S. got a common enemy. This might be not a popular video in some circles, but I'm just laying it out. Now, this guy, Vlad, he's a Russian, I know he's a patriotic person. I know he is. He's definitely a patriotic person. One problem with him, though, is that he's been insulated from... I know he's a politician, but he's been, he's came up through the KGB. That's not really the best place to come up from to have a balanced viewpoint of what's going on in Russia. Sometimes it's good to have some military and it's good to have some business. I know he's business too, but he's business because he's got a good racket going on. But if you're like an entrepreneur, you know what I mean? It's a lot tougher. It's a lot tougher. In other words, if you were one of the middle-class Russian businessmen that came up from the ranks and you got into office, you'd have a good idea of what people got to put up with to get ahead in Russia. That's one thing that Vlad doesn't really see. But there is a common enemy that Russia and the United States has, and it's over in the Middle East. If Iran and Saudi went at it so much, to me that'd be fine. That'd be fine. It would take all that oil off the market. The hell with it. People think that's evil, so what? I don't care. Because, what I look at it, in lieu of that not happening, we're going to have Russia and the United States go at it, and I don't like that. I don't like that. I think that's where this is all leading to. And really, we do have a common enemy. We do have a common enemy. Actually, a lot of Russians and Americans, they got a lot in common as far as, getting down to the common person. There is a lot in common, right there. That's a lot in common right there, too, There is, I don't think there's too many Americans that would have an argument with the Russians' looks and things like that. But I have to tell you that what's going on is, and, Muslims wouldn't tolerate any kind of dress like that or, showing your face or your hair, wearing makeup. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. So, Vlad, if you're listening, we got a common enemy. It's not her. It's the other guys. You know what I mean? So, anyway. And I could tell you one thing. That'd be one thing where I'd be on the same page with Vlad. I'll tell you one thing. If we were fighting them damn Muslims over there, I don't give a damn who they are. But, it'd be best if the war starts between Saudi and Iran and let it go. Let it go, man. Let it go. Because I wouldn't have I'd have it like a complete hands off from Russia and U.S. Let it go. And the oil gets off the market. Vlad's going to make money. Shale oil's going to make money. And we just got to repair everything that happened in the past and, go from there and go from there. So, anyway, but, the one problem with Russia is the same problem that's going on in the United States, though. Is you got too much money in the hands of a few people. I know it's far more skewed in Russia than in the United States, but, with the freaking games that are going on with the Federal Reserve in Washington, D.C., and, it's the same old garbage, but it's getting worse and worse. As a matter of fact, the disparity between rich and poor in the United States, the only time it was worse was back in the 20s. So anyway, so just want to point out that we as Americans and them as Russians, we both have a common enemy. And it's not like we're starting to fight. Radical Islam is about domination of the world, man, and converting or subverting all infidels. That is not the goal of Western Christianity or Russian Orthodox Christianity. That's not the goal of either one of those religions. It's not the goal of, definitely not the goal of Judaism. They don't try to convert anybody. And if you got into the study of Judaism, you'd realize that it's a tough religion. And you'd also realize that's why so many Jews are in some of the most, you're very educated professionals, because just having to understand and study all their religious history and traditions, it almost requires a PhD in itself to be a Jew, to really, understand it fully and deeply. So therefore, it requires a lot of intellect. But in the case of Islam, it's almost like they're going backwards and progressing, causing mankind to go backwards to a time that we've never even been at before. It's like eroding civilization. And I think part of that problem is from some of the things that Muhammad said. This might not be a freaking politically correct thing to say, but Muhammad was all cool with people marrying their first cousins. That does not help the gene pool, man. If you do that especially if you start doing that over a bunch of centuries, kind of lowers your intelligence, and it keeps you in a very narrow-minded mentality. And that's really what's going on with Islam. It's very intolerant to the max. Anyway, you crazy Russians and crazy Americans need to start getting together. And, this is an appeal to Vlad, because I see exactly what he's doing, more or less, but we do have a common enemy. We do have a common enemy. Russia and the United States does have a common enemy, and we need to be getting together on this deal and fighting a common enemy, and that is radical Islam. Vlad, when they had the bombing in apartments, I know what happened with that deal exactly. It was kind of like that Russian 911. But hey, man, it was all for a good cause. That's the way I look at it. It was all for a good cause. It rallied the people against who is a real common enemy. So I agree with this guy in that respect. Anyway, over now. And by the way, if you want to revamp this Russia Today, get rid of that stupid Abby Martin. She aggravates the hell out of me. She's an idiot. She's a skinny dingbat. Get one of these hot Russian chicks with nice boombas and blonde hair, and have her read the cue cards instead. I might actually take the station serious. So anyway, Vlad, if you're listening, this is somebody that does not kiss your ass and tell you stuff you want to hear. I'm just telling you flat out, Russia and the United States do have a common enemy. We do. Anyway, over and out. And, support your... Throw some money at some of these blonde women out there in Russia, because they might need it. They're lonely and they're cold, They're cold. They need warmth, you know what I mean?